if TSM AFKs, they will lose the game, and it's going to be Fiora Split pushing to win the game. It's a 5v4 that TSM must win. They have to win this fight. They got the Gurdon Angel off of Chaser. Bjergsen cutting back so that he can recall because their base will die. There's the recall for Bjerg. Chaser with a lock-in. Can they stop Fred from the back? They're going to go ahead and knock down one of the turrets, and Bjergsen's going to be there to stop it. Oh,
the redemption! That's it!
Wins the game thanks to Someday in the base. That was perfect. What a play! GG for Team Dignitas. Welcome back, guys. You just caught a clutch redemption play from Xpecial. We'll be looking at a handful of memorable moments from throughout the split during these playoffs, but right now we're gearing up for game number 2 between Phoenix One and Dignitas.
Yeah, game number 1, incredibly close, ends with Dignitas still up in gold after they made some cool Baron calls that were pretty good, and then it ended off of a Baron call and a Baron fight that wasn't as good.
Yeah, exactly. You get to, but the one that they don't is what costs them, and so much of it is Team Dignitas not being able to capitalize on the advantages that they're able to get. That game was incredibly back and forth, shows how close this series can be, but it's tough to lose games like that where you have so many things go your way early, but then you kind of toss some of them away down the stretch.
Yeah, Laud is the person that I was looking at to try and carry there. He's 1,000 gold up, has his call that's going to pop, put him even further in the lead, and they didn't play around him. They didn't give him enough resources with Chaser to get that turret down bottom lane, and Inori was able to answer with Moby Boots, hide the CC that came through, and then they were able to have a big turnaround play at the early game that stopped all that momentum.
And then Ryu just stayed on point and shut Laud's train down. No mercy.
Yeah, P1, this is a team that actually said, all right, we were in relegation, we're picking up some imports. We got Ryu and Arrow, high-level acquisitions. Arrow was just in the LCK finals. Ryu also has been in the LCK or an OGN finals in the past. They picked up some top-tier imports here, and then they said, all right, time to actually go to town, end up third in the split, but hey, they actually had a great showing there with there's 2 imports that they picked up, definitely being the backbone of the team.
Well, with game 1 in the books, let's see if Team Dignitas can sort of shake that off, get back in it with game number 2 and tie things up, or if Phoenix One is going to take us to match point into Champion Select for the second time. We're going to see less prioritization on the jungle, but still some hefty focus there, as Lee Sin, Camille, and Elise will be banned away by P1, and Dig decides to remove Malzahar and Rengar.
Yeah, and this is interesting because Graves still on the table, and Nori has not played a single Graves game in the NALCS so far this split. And is that something that Team Dignitas are going to ban away? It is up right now, and it might be his first one.
Lulu.
Still quite strong here, but you do have flexibility with what you want early. The bans change a little bit, as we mentioned, 3 jungle bans instead of 5, but I don't necessarily feel like Graves is a champion and Nori wouldn't be able to play. It's a huge solo queue jungler and should be right up in Nori's alley.
Yeah, it seems more his style than the Ivern does.
Yeah. You would think so. It does a lot of damage, but he loves things that have CC like Kha'Zix at least. And so this is a little bit of a far cry from what he was playing before, but it's still damage-based. I guess the Ivern is more of a far cry than what you would expect.
Right. He has CC, but he's got no damage for, like we said earlier, the highest damage jungler in the league. So a little bit different, but with the Graves locked in, that's a power pick for Phoenix One. Dignitas thinking about grabbing themselves that Nautilus. We saw that Zig was able to do quite a lot with it in the last match.
Yeah, and it's Sumday's most played champion in the regular season for a reason. It also sets up very well with a Kha'Zix jungle. So if Someday and Chaser want to buddy up a little bit more this game than they did last, they'll have the opportunity to.
Well, Someday and Chaser, those picks going to be locked in right now. Nautilus and Kha'Zix picked up for these guys. You talked about expecting Inori to maybe be on something like a Kha'Zix or an Elise, one of those bugs. But instead, it's going to be Chaser rocking at this game.
Yeah, absolutely. It's also been picked 7 times throughout the regular season by Chaser. Nothing crazy coming out early on in this draft phase, though. We don't have the Ivern preparation that Phoenix One has put in. Pretty standard stuff so far.
Yeah, gonna see Karma come through as well. Kind of makes sense with the 2 other top-tier supports being taken off the table here. And so far, it seems not too unusual.
This does mean that we are not going to see matched picks in the first part of the draft phase, though, because bot lane and jungle was picked up by Phoenix One, and top lane was already locked in by Dignitas. Things are going to be looking a little funky here. Speaking of funky, I'm pretty sure that's going to be a troll hover that the other got. Yep.
Yeah, trying to make sure they can lock down a good to reasonable laning phase for Laud, especially against Karma Ezreal that gets shoved in early. They're not going to be able to lock down both of them. The Caitlyn is a smart choice to pick right here. I expect bans to come from Team Dignitas in phase 2 towards the top side, trying to deny Zig what he can pick against Nautilus.
Yeah, maybe a Kled, maybe a GP, maybe actually force him onto something not tanky and ban out the other remaining tanks, but...
Yeah, what's interesting with Zig is even though he's played 9 Maokai games, 8 Nautilus games, 7 Shen games, if you add Kled, Gangplank, and Jace together, he's 10-0.
Yeah.
So he's succeeded on the squishier champions, but it hasn't necessarily gone back to that pocket very often.
Even though we were expecting to see a little bit of focus towards Zig with those bans, can you really blame Dignitas for taking that Syndra off the table and preventing Ryu from doing what he did in Game 1?
Best part is that's the 4th ban. That's the one that Laud gets to actually
spot it. Nope. He's like, nope, 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 nope. He's probably been hitting that left click since it started.
Yeah, it's also something that denies a safer blind pick for Ryu, because you can pick Cinder into pretty much any laning phase and have success. So knowing that Phoenix 1 is blue side, you want to make sure, in this case, that Team Dignitas can pick their mid laner last.
Zyra banned away by Phoenix 1, keeping that support off the board. I mean, they've already got their own, so why not take some options away from Dignitas? Rumble, the second ban from Dig, keeping that one away from Zig.
Interesting, because that's actually one of his least successful top lane picks, but this means that they don't have that magic damage dealing top laner that they could have and allow Ryu to play like a Talon mid or something.
Especially with Graves already locked in the jungle, that means that you will have to have some kind of magic damage threat in one of these remaining picks, or you stare down the barrel of that, oh, well, they just stack armor type of situation.
Yeah. It's like Talon Jace, because we think about Ryu, he's actually had some great Jace games in the past, so that Rumble stops him from picking either of those champions. So it's kind of a 2-for-1 value ban.
Gotta love getting one of those in there, as Dignitas now has to pick both their support and their mid laner. Likely will go for the support first, allow the mid lane counter pick to remain.
That's so weird. Why would they? Okay, so they banned Renekton thinking that that is a flex Nautilus to support.
Just making sure is what I'd have to guess. A lot of the times you have to be wary of that being a swap, and basically if Phoenix 1 doesn't see anything that they have a high priority of ban, I'd say that ban where they throw Renekton is actually the most missed ban in NALCS this year, because a lot of times teams just don't really care what they're banning there because the draft is played out.
Well, Nami locked in for Dignitas means you've got that Kate Nami power in the bottom lane. We know how adept Nami can be at trading, at punishing people, poking at them. Caitlyn, very effective in the laning phase as well. Shen, the hover for the side of Phoenix 1, so we might just get to see the same top lane matchup as last time, except swapped.
Yeah, it's not something Zig has found much success on. He's 3-4 so far on it, but it does make sense into the Nautilus, and that's a very small sample size as far as the regular season score.
And you know, if you're gonna have the Shen, now they have the LeBlanc.
This was banned last game as well. We got to see it over in Europe. It's been making a lot of waves in solo queue since the LeBlanc nurse, where many people thought she was dead. People have begun maxing Q. They rush Hextech Gunblade. We'll get into some of the advantages during the game, since we're almost certain that's going to be his build, and it's potentially, again, a power pick in the LCS.
One more to pick this game, and it's going to be for Keen, and Orianna is the choice to go up against that LeBlanc.
And we talked about, or especially you, Jat, you talked about how Ryu loves to play side lanes, loves to actually go and roam, and this is a perfect champion for him on the LeBlanc. And against Keen, this is kind of wave clear teamfight duty for him.
There's a lot of damage potential with the jungle and mid lane combination on Phoenix 1. Same can be said for Dignitas, though. If either one of these sides can manage to get rolling, the snowball potential is very scary.
Yeah, the team fighting of Team Dignitas is even better than it would have been last game, because they actually have some lockdown and some initiation potential. But Phoenix 1, to me, this game, while they still do have a pick-ish composition, is very much about spreading the map wide open and then forcing Team Dignitas into decision-making.
Yeah, and this LeBlanc, ever since the changes, you don't really take Ignite for lane, you take Teleport, you get a Lich Bane, like second, third item sometimes, and you auto-attack down turrets, and you split push, group up pretty easily. And it's split push, which also means it's kind of deceptive, because the ultimate Mimic that's global, you can actually just make it look like you're split pushing again a few times and go for ganks.
So many different opportunities with the champion. LeBlanc is one of those champs that can be frustrating to play against, but really fun to watch if someone really knows what they're doing on it, just because of the outplays and the mind games you can go for. Graphics team, you guys are the best this playoffs.
Last game as well, we really got to see Ryu and Arrow pull through for Phoenix One and kind of will them to victory. Putting Ryu on the block and Arrow on Ezreal gives them even more playmaking potential than they had last game.
All right, you can hear the crowd loading into Summoner's Rift for game number 2. Like we mentioned earlier, if this is a P1 win, we're going to match point. If it's a Dignitas win, well, we're just going to be playing a best of 3 from there.
You got me. I'm like, I don't like it when people say that.
You don't like it when
we're pretty much playing a best of 3 from there. I'm like, there's 2 games, and the things that happen in those games do affect you. People have seen the pick and ban from previously. They adjust accordingly, etc. Like, you're scarred by the previous match, etc. It's why people say if you lose 2 in a row or you lose one, you know, rough. Got to reset. So don't do this to me, Flowers.
Okay, fine. I'm not going to do that to you, sir. Fine. Forget I said anything. Just wipe away the last 15 seconds and say, man, Captain Flowers.
But if we go to game 5, it turns into a best of 1, right?
Yeah. If you go to game 5, it's literally just like a game of solo queue. They just all happen to have coordinated names.
Not getting into that right now.
You just queue up into one of these, Irene. Just click play. Anyway, on to Summoner's Rift for game number 2. Nobody really trying any of that 5-man stuff at level 1 this time around. With no Zyra in the game, there's not really that opportunity.
Yeah, you don't expect anyone to be doing any abnormal things early on in the game. You have very small amounts of time as well in between games, about 10 or 15 minutes for the coaches and teams to talk to each other. You know, you would like to think, hey, Stunt, don't be a dummy level 1. You actually could have died last game. And then he goes again. So this time, though, they were much more spread out, and they had, I think, some vision from elsewhere.
Yeah. He also didn't wait until like 1 minute, 10 seconds. He waited for like 1:23 to do it.
When people would have recalled.
Appropriate.
Just a couple love taps back and forth there in the top lane as Chaser goes ahead, starts off with the chickens. Keen will give him a little bit of love with the shield. Zig drops a ward just to keep some eyes on him.
Keen has cleansed this game. There's no Ashe anymore. This is actually a little bit unusual because you'll see heal or barrier most of the time on Orianna to just neglect a lot of this damage. So it was huge that he had cleansed last game because he would have died multiple times to Ashe arrows. But not in this game. There's actually fairly little CC, and it's mostly tether conditional.
Aggressive start here from Vlad and Xpecial, utilizing that Caitlyn and Nami lane power that we mentioned.
Yeah, and I really want to track the early laning phase here. Vlad and Xpecial had about a 20 to 30 CS advantage in the last game. And even though Arrow was nearly unanimous for first team all NALCS AD carry, his laning phase hasn't necessarily been spectacular, especially switching around the support. So I want to see if Team Dignitas can get some type of lead here, because it feels like one of the only places where they'll be able to get an advantage on Arrow, if that.
Well, Arrow's definitely not just going to allow himself to be auto-attacked to death. We saw some good trades there from Phoenix One.
Ezreal Nami is a potent lane. Sorry, Ezreal Karma is a potent lane. The same way that Caitlyn and Nami is a potent lane. So a lot of it is just how you play it.
Inori trying to steal away that blue buff, does successfully do so.
Chaser actually went for a full topside clear, got incredibly low, hit level 3, didn't even full clear his Krugs. He only killed the big one, and then he ran to the other side, and his buff is already gone. And Nori, kind of knowing the limits of Kha'Zix, he's most played champion, but it's like, all right, he's going to be low, and I get to fight him because Graves takes almost no damage in the jungle. The guy still got 2 flask charges left.
2 flasks and full HP.
They got a tip of where Chaser was starting when Keen did a late roam up towards Raptors to give him that shield. So Inori probably in an ideal world would have actually killed him at blue, because then you expect the route to be Raptors to red to blue, but Chaser then almost conservatively did the Krugs and therefore lost his blue.
Exactly, and it's also one of those things too where, like, if you fight an enemy jungler and you have red buff and they don't, it's just a huge boon for you. So he would have shown up, had his Graves red buff. If it was a left to right side clear, there wouldn't have been one there.
Keen.
Oh, he levels up.
Okay, level up means that Keen can't flash for the auto attack. Vlad gonna be taken low. The first blood for Stunt. Can Arrow and Stunt make it a twofer? One more? Nope, not quite. Oh, man, that was close.
You were talking about advantages in this lane. They got clapped.
Yeah, the early game Karma is so powerful. He landed that Monstred Q and just destroyed them. And then I believe also ignited before the heal came in, which made it more potent.
Chaser walks up and Arrow and Stunt don't even flinch. They just look at him and say, what are you gonna do? He has to walk back away. They push the wave up and get themselves back. 600 gold richer thanks to the first blood plus assist. Good moves from Phoenix One. Not starting this bottom lane off like they did in game number 1.
And Arrow looked really happy about that too. I mean, I watch his stream, and whenever he's talking to the supports, he's always got small critiques. You know, should have exhausted earlier, should have done this earlier. That looked like one where stun, the only thing you could do is should have landed that Q at the end. That's it.
Yeah, land the Q at the end. If that's the biggest criticism, that's great.
And the advantage is here, Inori just stole the Raptors away from Chaser, so he is smashing the Kazakhs in this, which makes the reprieve in bottom lane really difficult to arrive. I mean, Chaser shouldn't have shown down bottom after that lane had died, and that just opened up his Raptors.
Exactly. It felt like he maybe had to show because it was such a low HP expendable that they might be able to get him, but look at this roam from stun.
Oh, not even remotely concerned. Chaser's gonna be getting squashed.
Get Monado.
Okay.
It looked like Stunt just stopped attacking because he was hoping Ryu would come back in for the kill.
Yeah.
So that allows X-Special to walk in for the heal. Uh-oh.
All right, Zig with the flash, keeps himself alive. X-Special with some good work in mid lane, keeping his own jungler alive. So many people barely walking away this game, boys.
The reason that this is happening top is Someday backed, bought a whole bunch of Doran's rings, got to shove away with the AP, and now he's back at the top.
Triple Doran's Nautilus top.
What is name
it's
2?
ridiculous.
I would not recommend. I feel like the max is 2 plus a Dark Seal.
When your AD carry dies, level 2, you gotta go.
It's time for you to step
top
up.
lane build.
You're trying to say if X-Special would have died too, we'd see a 4th Doran's ring?
No, you'd see 5, because that's when you gotta go all the way in.
Oh my goodness, this is very early game build there for Someday. It nearly resulted in a kill. That would have been the payoff, but he doesn't quite get it. Sell back on Doran's rings is not good.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
less than half.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. All other items are pretty close to 100%. Not exactly, but hold on.
Stunt going for another one of those juicy Qs.
He knows they don't have
X-Special
flash.
going to be
Flash.
rooted up
Got
here.
the
Arrow jumping forward. The heals from X-Special again, keeping him alive.
No 5 rings today, but Inori 6.
Uh-oh, collateral damage is there.
Oh,
Field goal. Wait a second, Inori. I don't know about this
Oh, he's
one.
gonna get the United.
Okay. Despite the fact that every spell, including the smoke screen, missed, and Nori walks away.
Yeah, that was the near tilt right there in that play. Inori needs to be able to make that play work. He jumped the gun. He could have just kind of walked up and made this play happen, but regardless, you can see how inescapable this pressure is. Phoenix One is putting it in from all angles.
Okay, Ryu with the flash away from Keen. Keen still chasing him with the auto attacks.
Yeah, bot lane has to back up here.
But do you ever actually aim the Graves smoke screen at the cliff on purpose in case the plant throws him over the wall and it barely touches him? Like, was that the plan? Because
No.
I still feel like that smoke screen couldn't have been intentionally aimed there.
No.
I'm trying to play devil's advocate for the smoke screen.
No,
I'm not a Graves player, I don't know.
Advocate. I feel like you're playing like Angel's advocate there. You're like, yeah, give him the benefit of the doubt. You know, it's smoke screen. It's a high level play.
Yes, it's a high level ability. There's so many different places you can shoot it. Shoot it in the wall or in the trees.
It's predicting the on cooldown flash with his ultimate. It's
Yeah.
not a miss.
Yeah.
Chaser though
Ready to
coming
go.
down bottom here. See if he actually does anything. And do you see P1 pings that across their jungle that, hey, our red's up, Inori's on top side of the map. Something was going on this bottom side here.
Yeah, making sure they don't over-aggress as well. Like, all of that tomfoolery in the top side could have broken the game wide open. I mean, if Inori does that properly, and even Zig comes in earlier with the Shen ultimate, if he was level 6 even when that happened, he should have been since Inori was 6. I mean, that could have just been another double kill and broken the game wide open, but narrowly escapes does Team Dignitas.
Yeah.
Chaser does a good job stealing away the enemy red buff now as well. Kind of makes up for the blue buff he lost earlier.
Inori had so much pressure because Chaser had shown bottom early. He got those Raptors. He was level 6 when Chaser was 4, and because Inori ended up fumbling that play bottom, it looked like it was super rushed. You don't have to do it that quickly. It ends up costing him a little bit of his lead.
Nori is still level 7 to level 5, though. Like, don't underestimate how strong this Graves is. He had one bad play, but he's still very capable of making some good ones.
Yeah, he's very far ahead. Still doesn't have much to do on the map for a moment here, whereas Zig beating Someday up top for just a second. He's going to get some Chaser help.
Chaser's showing up just in case.
Somebody also wants to play so aggressively because he's gone for the triple Thorns ring, but he's actually not making a huge amount of progress on Zig, and this is all Zig needs to kind of do right now is absorb what Someday has done with his triple Thorns ring and then scale up with the rest of his items. I'm still recovering from that.
Are you okay, Jet?
Those whiffs from
you all right?
Because that would have been the early game, right? So I wonder how well he's going to be able to just continue on from this, because that's a big miss in a very pivotal moment.
It was like a crazy one too. It's a flash forward,
everything.
Q to the turret, R to that same spot when the guy's over on the left. That was one where he's like, He's got to be here. That's where you try to make a highlight reel. You do it for the montage.
Yeah, everything's done for the montage. We're going to put some what music behind this, get it on Reddit.
But that one, though, cut the tape.
Yeah, it's just like, nope, not that one. Anyway.
But you're absolutely right, Jad. That would have been the early game, and they would have probably smashed that turret down. It's so low right now that the Graves on it is so much extra damage that would have been that, too, and a huge snowball.
The early game has been so good so far, and that's why you saw that level lead for Inori. But a lot of that pressure, as we've seen, is completely gone after they burn everything down bottom lane. So really giving an opportunity for Team Dignitas to recover. And now Team Dignitas want to just transition into some type of mid-game teamfight phase. We're going to get to see this again.
Thank you.
What happened? He's got full shots, flashes.
Ooh, okay.
QR. All right, you got some.
Yeah, he hit Xpecial with the Q just barely on the back part of it because it's a hammer-shaped skill shot. So it goes forward and then it spreads out. He actually got Xpecial on the back end of it, but the R is a total miss. Yeah. That one, I feel like that's what I got for that, Jad. It's not like a great reason or anything like that. It's like he hit him with 1 out of 3.
I think it was greedy. He thought that he killed Xpecial with the Q, so he tries to R Lodge to be like, oh yeah, we're just going to get both of them, no problem. And then as he's walking away from the fadeaway, it's like, have you ever seen the gif of the basketball player that goes for the 3 and then he walks away with his hand in the air and then it just misses? That's kind of...
But that's a play where you don't have to rush it that fast. He can actually walk up to him. You can dodge the Nami bubble with the Q or with the E or your flash that you have available and auto him in the face, auto Q. And it's much easier. Get out of turret range with R, anything like that. And it's just a better play. We talked about nerfs, and I mean, Inori wants to prove himself. I know that's something that he even said in that P1 feature. He really wants to prove himself. He's working hard. That's why he has the spot right now over Remedios.
Locking down Keen here. Inori making his way in the fight, but kind of what you talked about with no CC available on the Graves means that Keen was just a little bit too far away. He couldn't get in there in time to provide any extra lockdown.
Yeah, and this could also be an opportunity to talk about the resurgence of the Blanc that we're going to be seeing. With that Hextech Revolver, one thing that you do now that you're maxing Q is you just W towards them as we see the bottom lane turret getting taken. You W toward them and you Q them with an auto attack. And since the Revolver will proc, that gives you Thunderlords. And you can't necessarily trade as evenly back. And then if you want to stick around, you can and you can land that chain. Once you get to the Hextech Gunblade, the Q explosion on the minions counts as single target for all those explosions. So you can heal for almost as much as 400 health per wave, which then makes you a sustained monster once you get to that point. So it's great for split push, it's great for the later laning phase, and the early lane is kind of bypassed by the fact that you have such powerful trades just with the Revolver.
Yeah, the Revolver into the Thunderlords is huge. And then when he gets the Hextech Gunblade, like you said, there's one more thing, is that the active will slow the person, so your chain is even easier to land. It's just such a great item for her.
LeBlanc is a sustained Sheen proc user. What a time to be alive.
And it's split pushing, and it's not necessarily that good in team fights. So, especially against a team that could have a lot of heals and shields, unless you get really far ahead and your damage becomes ridiculous thanks to AP ratios.
Yeah, you're trying to split the team up. Dignitas does not have a team that wants to 1-3-1 you. And if you bring teleport and your global of your Mimic, then you just have more pressure in a side lane. And they have, honestly, like 4 globals on P1 side if you're counting the LeBlanc one as another, but you have 3 total with the Shen, Stand United. And also, you can't really answer the LeBlanc at times because you have Stand United too, so it'll become a 2-on-1 or a 2-on-2 very quickly.
So these item conversations also leads me into taking a look at what Arrow's building, going for the Blade of the Ruined King before any sort of a Sheen, Trinity, anything.
Go back to the days where Bloodthirster was first item.
She stole it.
Ooh. And there's one for the wave! Yeah! Try to clear it out. Because Inori doesn't have any mana, and he wants to just have a safer situation here. But yes, Blade of the Ruined King is such a powerful item. People are trying to play champions that can build it. Play champions that can even fit it into their build as soon as possible. Great for sustain. Great against pretty much everything in terms of tanks. You can't get shoved out of lane. So pretty much that's the explanation. King Blue Flash during that time.
Yep, he had to get away from there. The chain proc length is so long, he just had to flash away from that in order to keep himself safe. That Summoner spell now down, might be in some danger. In the meantime, waiting for it.
Yeah, and I mean, the Blade of the Ruined King as well is just an immediate power thing. A lot of the times, Ezreal hits that spike around 20 minutes, but right now, Phoenix One is trying to take the power right now. I mean, that's why we see that swap, and that's why Inori used the ultimate on the wave. They're just trying to move this strength around, but Zig, you gotta run.
Diving for him. Zig has got to get out of town right now, flashing himself away from the wave, but Somedays made his way into the fight. CC gonna be coming down. Spirit's Refuge will not provide any safety today. Laud grabbing the kill. And now we're going to see who gets turret first blood first. And I think the answer is going to be P1.
Yeah, several minutes ago, they're now 2 turrets up as well.
Oh, yeah, that was turret first blood a while ago.
They dove so hard right there that, yes, they did get the kill, but they need to be able to get the turret, and they will.
Phoenix 1 got that first one so early, I was not even considering it. I was thinking, oh, yeah, we got a race. It's not even a race. Somebody crossed the finish line 2 hours ago.
Oh, this is a kill.
Are they going to get this bottom turret local gold? Hey, I heard that.
Oh, here he comes.
Where's the clone going?
Oh, looking to make those plays.
Oh,
Dan United coming in, flashing forward onto Lod, who's going to be bursted down. Big Special trying to get himself away. Flashes him along, collateral damage. One more. Oh! Adios. Ryu grabbing that kill.
Calais pigeoned.
And what Phoenix 1 is doing here is splitting the map up as much as possible. It's actually using the strengths they have very well within their team composition.
I'm going to remember that one, sorry. Clay Pigeon. Did you kill somebody in the air?
But yeah.
Good.
But yeah, like Jat was saying, they're actually just spreading them across the map there, and Ryu is so powerful right now with the pick potential, and the fact that Inori was able to back him up and land the ultimate that time made the difference. That last auto attack. Whew.
All right.
Gunblade.
And a turret for Dignitas. At least they got themselves on the objective board now. But they're still down 1 turret, down 1 Drake, down 3,000 gold. Phoenix 1 looking very solid here, 16 minutes into the match. Arrow now pushing here in mid lane, but with very limited mana. Not going to be able to do a whole lot.
Yeah, you also wonder if they actually give the blue buff to Arrow at some point in this game, just because Ryu's going to be split pushing too much. Probably not. He's just going to go back and get full mana regen. But mid lane is the next natural destination for Phoenix 1. And Dignitas, they have shown an ability to set up a play. They're able to go and kill Zig, but they'll need to be able to set up a strong play in the mid lane. We're going to watch this one more time, though, as far as Ryu and Inori just chasing this kill down.
Yeah, uses the Mimic Distortion there for gap closing. A lot of people talked about the actual change to LeBlanc with the Mimic Distortion damage down. It's like, you don't use it to actually deal damage, you use it to gap close. That's exactly what he does there. Pull!
You even saw the arc on the projectile follow the arc of the Nami. Chasing him perfectly down.
T-Tours, man, those camera angles, that was great. That was great.
We got him.
See the rift like never before. I had no idea. That was amazing.
All right, Arrow, plenty of mana now in a solid situation, solid condition to be pushing up. He's got to be very mindful of where that Kha'Zix is going to be. 1 level away from getting his 2nd evolution. Did go for the claws first, likely going to go for the Void Spike second.
Yeah, and you can see the grouping starting to happen towards the mid lane, but if Team Dignitas wants to set up a play, they want to set it up with Someday, which puts a lot in a weird position where he needs to be the solo AD carry in a LeBlanc world, which is a really scary thing to do, but they can get Arrow!
Arrow gonna be wombo comboed!
That's the play they
Someday
need
grab
to
the
make.
kill, and that is exactly what they needed.
Drake up in 50 seconds as well. That is why they made that play, but they had seen Lot in the side lane, so they had to be asking themselves, where is the Nautilus? And that one is kind of on Arrow for getting caught out.
Yeah, now they're going for the 1-3-1 here, or 1-2-1 with Arrow removed here from Phoenix 1. Just trying to get side lane pressure, but like you said, exactly, go for the pick on that big crew that doesn't have much disengage, and they caught Arrow completely unawares.
Didn't even need a summoner spell to get him. Nobody had to flash to make that happen. They just managed to grab the kill, especially onto something that's like an Ezreal. Pretty impressive.
It's kind of what they need, too, because Arrow is 1,000 gold up. He was about 1,300 up before that turret went down and gave a whole bunch to Lod, so he was up a lot. He was becoming a big threat. Ryu's only about 500 up, and Inori's about 1,000 up himself. So there's honestly a decent amount that's going well for P1 here, but shutting down Arrow is kind of the utmost importance in this early game because he had so much CS and advantage.
Yeah, and Team Dignitas need to stop the snowball, and there have been 2 moments where they've been able to do that. The failed dive bottom as well as that pick they've gotten in the mid lane. For now, though, Phoenix 1 is still in a power position.
Phoenix 1 after their 2nd Drake this game. This time it's going to be Cloud. Similar to last time, Cloud 2nd. P1 grabbing that one means it's 2-0 in terms of the Drake count. Still a 2,000 gold lead 19 minutes in as they send Ryu back into the mid lane. With that Gunblade now completed, that sustain that you guys were talking about has come online, and it's going to be very difficult to deal with.
Absolutely, and he did have a delayed path to that because he went early Negatron Cloak, but even now, he's trying to be as annoying as possible and keep the pressure on to Team Dignitas.
I was like, what was that? Looks like he's just trying to stop a potential
That
back
was weird.
or something.
He got,
Who's there?
turret damage. Gunblade.
Oh, okay, that was a good chunk of damage.
Yeah, he's trying to get Keen to back because he's the wave king.
Yeah, and the thing is, Ryu took a bunch of poke there. So a lot of the times you're thinking, okay, lane, that was an even trade, right? Because Ryu took so much damage, but he can go bot lane on the next big minion wave, get the Q off, and then heal up to full, which is the map pressure they're trying to apply with this hit.
Yeah, your W is your priming ability to hit the minions, and then you just Q, and it does about the same amount of damage as it would have before, but it's all Q loaded now, which makes the Gunblade so much better, like you said, Jet.
And you guys mentioned it earlier, but Dignitas not really wanting to play this 1-3-1 game. They don't want to be falling into the Phoenix 1 trap and being forced to play that way, so they're going to look to avoid that any way they can.
And Karma's always a really good support to have in a 1-3-1, because if your core of 3 gets caught, just Mantra Shield them all away.
Collateral damage, attempting to steal away that red buff, fire some damage into the Dignitas lines as well, but Chaser grabs the buff for himself. Ryu bottom side, not really concerned about Someday. You saw the heal come out right there.
Yeah, I have to say, Inori's Graves play has been super erratic this game. His jungle pathing has been strong, but the use of his ultimate is oh boy.
Flash forward, the point-blank shotgun blast will do the trick. The tidal wave comes through. Keen, the only casualty so far. Stun gonna be stunned up. Someday trying to find the kill, but Spirit's Refuge protects and provides. As Inori and Ryu have found themselves in a very bad spot. Ryu's gonna be going down now, 1 for 2. Phoenix 1 still has found themselves an advantageous fight for the time being. Stunt barely walking away.
Pretty wacky fight there.
Yeah.
All things considered, but Vlad being able to pick one up on the backside does benefit them fairly well, since late game in a team fight, Vlad will actually be the one they need to be the primary carry.
Getting those kills onto Lod's gonna be big. He's still a little bit behind, still down 20 CS. In terms of that, at least. A little bit behind in farm, I should have said.
Yeah.
The 2-kill advantage, very nice for him.
And Laud had an advantage last game in the laning phase, and they weren't able to convert it. This game, he's behind in the laning phase, and it's just going to be P1 having more free reign here. They all go mid, they get the turret, and then Nori ends up getting that kill off the flash, and then stunned with the protection here. So he gets the Spirit's Refuge there. And
yeah,
this
Ryu
fight
popped back.
So much pressure. Ooh, yeah.
Ryu distorted in for just a little bit of damage onto the kill. Then he popped back towards Laud, and X Special did not need to give that kill over.
He's playing pretty hyphy, pretty fast and loose right now.
Whole game's pretty hyphy.
He's been... It's been a little erratic, I'd also say. Like, Nori is the standout where you see the most of it, because he is farming so fast. Like, he is playing at such a quick pace that everything is about trying to be efficient, and then when he runs into the fight, it doesn't seem like they have the adequate amount of patience that they need for these plays. And it's, to me, the only thing that's keeping Team Dignitas in this game, because for the most part, they have been getting run over, aside from these little missteps of Phoenix 1 trying to put the gas pedal down a little too far.
Yeah, Phoenix 1, now they have a Mountain Drake and a Cloud, so this Baron seems to be the next place they're going to set up for. Maybe the erratic play will stop for a bit, because these inner turrets are the ones that are left standing. It becomes a lot more about vision control, a lot more about setting up in the jungle, as opposed to dive them now.
Yeah, and with the entire outer line down, you can do that. You can get into enemy territory, put those deeper vision lines, and really start to control more and more of the map. Force Lod to set up the defense line right there outside of the tier 2. Which he will hold on to for now, but that's still a lot of damage from Ryu.
Yeah, you can see always using that Gunblade early to slow him down so you can land your skill shots better. And he just sticks around.
Just waiting, seeing if he gets a chance here, but Xpecial is doing the same thing, realizing Ryu wants to go for that.
Even then, it's a 1v2 hold pretty easily, and then he just W's in, watch the sustain.
173.
Nearly full health.
Arrow and stun hanging around. I don't see Keen walking up too much further. Yes he does. Okay. Boom. I just caster curse the hell out of him. Keen walks forward and Arrow grabs the kill.
And that was the Graves play done right as well. He did the auto attack cancel on the R and he E'd forward to just make that burst come out even quicker.
He wanted to be in there. He didn't want that R knocking him back. He wanted to be able to follow up. If he missed the R, you get an auto attack in his face, just in case. Just make sure you're that much closer. And Keen gets caught. And it seems like it's slipping a bit here. As soon as he goes down, that's that large amount of wave clear that stops the 3-man unit in the 1-3-1 from pushing up on turrets.
And that's a 5,000 gold lead that Dignitas now has to deal with. That's a pretty substantial disadvantage to have to work with Phoenix One constantly applying the pressure like this in 3 different lanes.
Yeah, and oh boy.
Wow.
There hasn't been much 1-3-1 in the LCS this split. It is a relatively difficult thing to pull off, and I'm surprised to see P1 going for it here. With the roster that we mentioned, they've pretty much not played with all 5 together. What they do have, though, is their 2-1s have been the consistent players throughout the entire split, and it's the other 3 that are then trying to work together. It also adds to the difficulty of playing against it, since you're not that used to it here. But the LeBlanc and the Shen, especially this current LeBlanc, fit in so well for a 1-3-1. I think it's definitely catching Team Dignitas a little bit by surprise, and they're not setting up the plays to stop it.
Team Dignitas perpetually on the back foot this game, trying to continue that momentum we talked about at the start of this series in their second half of the split, starting off so far down in the rankings, managed to work their way into playoffs, find that 6th spot. But now Phoenix One is proving to be a very capable opponent, both game number 1 and now here in game number 2.
Exactly, and game number 1 was Team Dignitas having advantages and not being able to capitalize, and the difficulties that has as far as transferring momentum to the next game in the series. This is a game where Phoenix One has had the advantages and done a little bit of fumbling themselves, but for now are making a larger expansion of their lead than Team Dignitas did.
Yeah, when we talk about a team like Dignitas that plays really well when they're the ones who are attacked, that's not actually a very proactive way to play League of Legends. And when they end up with lane deficits, then P1 gets to make all the plays, gets to control the map, and they get to dictate the pace.
And that's also the thing about playing against a split-pushing 1-3-1 team like this. If you are not active, you will lose. You need to be proactive against these 1-3-1 teams, and that has not been Team Dignitas' strength.
Bot lane's getting flanked right now. Someday they have all these guys around him.
He's tanky, but how tanky can he actually
1v1,
be to get himself
Keen.
away from this one? And Nori is not going to be putting up with Keen today. Takes him down in the jungle. Someday going to be falling next. A 2-for-0 for Phoenix One, and they are marching down the bottom lane.
It's the 1-3-1 collapse where they have one person on the side and Someday's pushing out too far. Immediately, they get jungle control. They run straight through because that outer turret is down. And Nori catches Keen in rotation, and now they get priority bot and mid.
Yeah, and it definitely looks like after the last few Graves plays that Nori has made that have been clean and the correct thing, that he's shaken off those mistakes from earlier. So keeping the pressure up, 200 CS, 4 kills. He's becoming massive, and now he's wielding the champion with much more confidence.
Yeah, the second highest gold in the game, right behind Arrow, who got first turret gold handed to him, and I believe second as well. There's a lot of just gold going into his pockets. And there's the clone.
Keep pouring in for Phoenix One. The Dragons keep coming in. They are just racking up every advantage. This game, 7,000 gold ahead. Next Drake's going to be Infernal too. So as long as they can maintain this position in the driver's seat, not have any major mistakes, any big Baron throws or something along those lines, watch this 1v1.
Yep. Sees him. Keen starts rotating down there. There you go. Grop, finish him. Oh.
So that time, the super quick QR actually connects. That's what he was going for beforehand.
It looks really lame when it misses, but it looks really cool when it works.
28 minutes to master that. So.
Yeah, fine.
It's,
they say it takes 10,000 hours to master a skill in real life. It takes 28 minutes in League of Legends.
Boom. That's why I prefer playing that instead of real life.
Yeah. When you can get results like that, why not? 50,000 gold to 43,500 gold. Phoenix One, clearing some vision away from Baron, setting down some of their own, recognizing that a couple more good picks could mean that big objective.
Yep, and Ryu going for Lich Bane as well, like we said, 3rd, 4th item sometimes in these builds, where he'll be able to deal a lot of damage to these turrets, and he's a huge split-pushing threat that Dignitas don't have enough globals to really answer at all times.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, they tried to group up in mid lane, hoping for another pick onto Arrow. Really didn't get anything, and the split push pressure is just going to continue to mount.
Odd's doing as much as he can, setting these traps down everywhere, trying to prevent the push coming in from Phoenix One, but it's just a very slow bleed. Has the slight advantages in pressure, slightly faster rotations working out for Phoenix One. Chaser eats a little bit of damage there, but Ryu just immediately disappears into the dust.
Ryu is doing a number on this Team Dignitas team. There are 3 people there. 3 people there, and he kills Lot.
Before heal, before flash, before he can get any damn help, he's gone, and now they're going to go do Baron.
Now Baron is just going to be 2-manned by a Nori and Arrow, who don't have any concern whatsoever for Dignitas. This isn't even going to require some help. Baron secured pre-30 minutes. Phoenix won, man.
Ryu is not getting to play LeBlanc again in this series.
Yeah,
Like,
nope. I was thinking in my head, ban LeBlanc.
Yeah, his laning phase was not even spectacular. He lost a little bit in CS to Keen, but watching this one more time, Laud in the shop, W into the passive proc as well as the Gunblade.
That's the second E hitting at the same time as the first Shatter Rock is going off with the proc, yeah, the passive. So
it was so much burst. Yeah, he timed that perfectly to make it so there was no chance to use the heal from Laud.
Yeah, if he was going to use it, he uses it when he has 3/4 HP. It's like,
Ryu just drops one of those and says, hey, your radar working yet?
yeah. Damn.
And it's interesting, too, because Laud's putting himself in this position where he wants to be the hard carry, building a Zeal on top of the rapid-fire cannon. But no magic resist, so that can definitely happen again.
Yeah, it's going to be a while before he gets that, too, because his inventory is completely full. Would have to sell the Dorans and then expend a decent amount. But yeah, Ryu, with the Baron buff, now this team that's 1-3-1 has Baron, super deadly.
And there's the wave clear that you were talking about earlier that was so important. It's just not effective against Baroned up minions.
Ryu's going to get top turret as well right now. He's got the Lich Bane. He's just going to keep autoing this thing down. He's actually going to take it faster than this mid one's being taken by 3 people.
Dignitas realizes they've got to answer that very quickly, but they answer it just barely in time to even keep it standing. The trap line all mid lane.
It's 11,000 gold lead. We're seeing this snowball out of control with Phoenix 1 having some early pressure that transitioned really well to Ryu picking up some kills, and an Ori also getting some too.
Oh dear.
Lots of damage.
That's even through the shield.
Yeah.
And he's got MR. He's got Merc Treads.
Okay, that's not that much MR, but
it's still MR.
It's still some.
This is just a slow roll for Phoenix 1. It looks like they're going to be taking this third inhibitor. Like, Team Dignitas needs to just go all in with Someday in some aspects, but then they're losing something on the other side. This is a 1-3-1 done right by Phoenix 1.
Yeah, the eternal pressure, the constant feeling of just being overwhelmed somewhere, somehow, has worked exceptionally well for Phoenix 1.
That's a Baron power play where they get all 3 inhibitors all within about 40 seconds of each other here if they get this last one.
This should be the fight that Dig wants.
They wants to fight so many resources onto a Nori. They will find him. But they're going to be 3 inhibbed as the cost. Phoenix 1 now in retreat. Tidal Wave not going to be finding a whole lot. Damage coming in. Laud going to be in some trouble. First comes through and Arrow grabs the kill. The inhibitor will fall 1 for 1 plus that objective double super minions. Going to be marching into this base now. It's all over almost for Dignitas as Phoenix 1 has no intentions of heading back just yet. Chaser can't find his jump onto 8 things. Dig making his way back into the fight through the TP. Dignitas, they can't just let everything die. They've got to make some kind of a fight, some kind of a stand.
They're trying. They have to look for the pick with the CC, but
Arrow's almost completely out of mana.
I mean, cooler heads are prevailing for Phoenix 1 to walk out of this one, but Team Dignitas is completely wiped out of the game. This is a demoralizing way to lose.
And this looks like it'll be Infernal Drake 20 seconds up. P1 will back with Baron-empowered recalls, and they'll just continue the stranglehold. Demoralizing way to lose. They'll pick up even more objectives before they try to close it out.
This is not looking like Week 9 Phoenix 1. This is looking like the Phoenix 1 that was just steamrolling through every opponent for a few weeks beforehand in their NALCS adventures.
And Phoenix 1, in that Week 9, they played Stun for 1 game, they played Inori for 2, not together, and they played Shady for 3 of those 4 games, giving that rookie some of his first experience on stage before playoffs. So Phoenix 1, there was a question of whether that was their full potential or not. It seems like they're a little bit above that, but they are playing against Dignitas. Not the same as playing against TSM or Cloud9, both in the same week.
Yeah, and so much of the 2 weeks off also just depends on preparation, right? How have you been able to synergize with this team, and how much do you want to judge off that last week where Phoenix 1, after they lost to Cloud9, had nothing to effectively play for. They were locked into that 3rd seed, whereas Team Dignitas was battling for their playoff lives with the highest form of motivation coming into that last week. Either way, it's looking like this game is going to be pushing the series to match point.
They got everything they need to close this one out here.
Multiple super minions from every wave, a 5,000 gold Baron power play, all 5 members in the enemy base, a 13,000 gold lead. The list goes on.
Keep going.
But all that's left standing is 1 turret with barely any life for Team Dignitas. That situation's going to be changed here
Special
real
dead.
quick. Nick Special's dead by Ryu. Chaser's forced to jump away. Someday trying to get himself out. A pretty good shockwave, but it's not going to be good enough. P1 will take it to game point.
And this game was far less zany than game one, I would have to say. It was just procedural once they got through some of the early game. And the thing is, it could have been a lot worse. They could have won this one faster because they had so much early game pressure 8 minutes in, fumbled a few plays, but then just continued to hammer home. And that just kind of goes to show how well their 1-3-1 was working in that game.
Yeah, Champion Select worked out for them. They got the LeBlanc that was banned previously, able to execute a 1-3-1 strategy that actually looked like it was great for them. And then I got to question something here for Dignitas. What was going on with Chaser's jungle route at the beginning of the game? Because he barely gets level 3, has to back, loses pressure, loses gold, loses experience because he doesn't get the full clear Krugs, loses his blue at the same time, which he may have died if it had actually gone through the regular route. But that's just P1 being on top of their game, playing McGraves for the first time, and having that first pick.
It was definitely not the most ideal jungle route for the Kazakhs there in game number 2, but for more on that and everything about game number 2, let's go ahead and check in with the analysts to see what they make of yet another Phoenix 1 win.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I think there were a lot of things that didn't go quite as well as Dignitas may have hoped here in Game 2, but a statement game out of Phoenix 1. I mean, the LeBlanc there in the hands of Ryu, who was already a top performer from Game 1, and it's a pick that we've seen, you know, showing up in Europe most recently with the Gunblade, and now being picked up here in NA. Very powerful. You were saying it, Scar, near the end of the game. Feels like LeBlanc can 1v5 if allotted a couple kills early.
Right, and what happened with the old LeBlanc is like she used to have problems going to mid-late game because you can't one-hit. It's more like 80s don't do damage, that much damage early, and so what ends up happening is her lack of sustain means that you can't just like wait 2 seconds for your chain to connect. But with this build, she can like go in, do a rotation, and even if she gets chunked, she'll heal it back up. And she can keep going for these looks, and they're almost guaranteed with the slow from the Gunblade, the extra burst from it. So the new build feels maybe even more impressive to play against one head. And I already thought LeBlanc was like a ridiculous snowball champion in the first place.
Absolutely, but Kobe, I want to turn a critical eye again towards the bot lane, because if we looked at the laning stats from Game 1, 35 CS advantage in favor of Laud. This time around, though, playing Caitlyn Nami, a very lane dominant duo, go down in CS against Arrow.
That was a super early indicator that this was not going to be a good game for Team Dignitas when the Caitlyn Nami is dying like that. And all credit, you know, due to Arrow and Stunt there. You know, they were able to land the skill shots, but that was also a misplay on the bottom lane's part right there.
Yeah, and the turret goes down quickly, and it's funny because it somewhat mirrors the strategy that we would have liked to have seen Dignitas employ at least, you know, more aggressively in Game 1 with that advantage in the bot lane. Get the turret down, rotate him to a side lane. We saw Phoenix 1 taking turrets, you know, very early on and extending that goal lead and opening up the map for that 1-3-1, which LeBlanc can thrive in.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that jungle route that
Chaser
started was actually not. It wasn't even a bad opener, but the way they did it. Okay, when your jungle starts there, what happens? Your mid lane gives him a little leash. Your top lane's maybe there to help him out a bit. What did the mid lane do?
His leash was laughable.
He ran around the side, so he's late to mid lane, and he threw an E on the Kazakhs. He autoed like a minion once. That is the least helpful thing you could possibly do on a jungle champ that already struggles in the first clear. You're not. If you do that, your jungle's automatically going to be set super far behind, and Nori just took over the game after that.
Yeah, Nori on the Graves, big CS advantage for him there. Actually, the first time that he's played it this split. Of course, we've seen him play it back in the summer, but very nice pickup there, first rotation, leaving the LeBlanc all the way to 5th pick. But while we've talked a lot about the bot lane and how Dignitas is expected, or rather should be looking there for advantages, I think we have to go back to the mid lane now after 2 very impressive games from Ryu and say, how can Dignitas respond to this? The expectation was that they would win bot lane, but now they got to deal with this crazy roaming mid laner.
That's true. Ryu has been magnificent in both games for Phoenix 1. However, the guy that's going to have to, you know, step up there and try and get him under control would be Chaser. Chaser, when Team Dignitas were winning so many of their games at the end of the split, he was absolutely going off, and he was creating a lot of early advantages for the team. So we're still looking for him to, you know, kind of repeat those types of plays.
Right, because Keen actually playing the mid lane matchups in isolation fairly well.
No, he played this mid lane matchup great, actually. He forced the early TP, got great pressure, got the solo flash. And this guy did almost everything he could to keep the LeBlanc in lane without TP. And it just so happened that he just kept waiting for Chaser to do something. And then Chaser never got to the point where he could do anything, honestly.
So here we are. We're down 2-0 against Phoenix 1. We've got to run it back, get the 3-game sweep here for Dignitas if they're even going to have, the opportunity to move on here in the playoffs. What do you do? Because now it feels like they're stretched thin, right? We came into the day with a pretty clear strategy for them. Put your focus into the bot lane, abuse the exploitable arrow and stunt lane, while Keen and Someday are solid performers. That's not happening, right? So do you have to completely divert your focus from the bot lane, as you mentioned, and put Chaser hard mid, get Ryu under control, and then just hope that your bot lane survives?
Could do that, or could try and go back to Someday split pusher, Someday on a carry. We've seen them on tanks both times, and honestly, Zig has had the same impact or even slightly better impact in some of the plays that Someday has had. So maybe Team Dignitas wanted to actually put more focus up there and lend him ganks, lend him champion select support.
The triple Doran's buy kind of suggests that he wanted to carry there a little bit. But yeah, something other than Nautilus might help carrying from the top lane with Someday. But as we've mentioned at the beginning of the day, Zig's such a flexible player. It feels like, at least in Champ Select, he'll have an answer to anything Someday might bring out.
I really think Dig needs Chaser to perform well. I said at the very start of the day, I'm saying it's especially obvious after that last game. If Chaser falls behind, just Dig can't do anything. Dig needs Chaser to perform well, and that's it.
All right, well, down 2-0 in the series. It's do or die time here for Dignitas. Phoenix 1 sitting pretty with a 2-0 lead. We're going to step away for just a moment. When we return, Phoenix 1 look to book their spot to Vancouver with a win in Game 3. After the break, we'll see if Dignitas can fight back. Don't touch that browser.
Okay, level up means the Keen can't flash for the auto. Backlog gonna be taken low! The first blood for stun!
You're a little bit low. I'm going.
Oh, yeah, no. Carrot Oriarty back.
Yeah.
Hey, he's flash. It's okay, I bought it. One more hit.
I'm coming.
Good job.
Appears into the dust.
Ryu is doing a number on this Team Dignitas team. There are 3 people there. 3 people there, and he kills a lot.